Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another whiteboard session. This is the Nakshatra Gurukul series that I've started on my YouTube. Nakshatra Gurukul is a refreshing, thought-provoking series of interviews that I do with researchers, scholars, students of Nakshatras who present their original findings and teach us new ways of understanding and mastering the divine secrets of these lunar mansions. Now, our guest today, I had requested him to come and present something on nakshatras last time. And he presented us something on Pushya Nakshatra. And so many people have written to me about that interview that I did with him. And they were all impressed with his ability to really go very deep in understanding, how these nakshatras operate. Now, I've been having a lot of discussions with him, and he seems to be having a better handle of Muhurthas. And I said, can you come and teach us something on something related to nakshatras and something related to fortune? Because last time we discussed about Pushya. Pushya is about nourishment, nurturing. And this time he said, yes, I can come and present something on a unique topic, which I myself have not researched on. It's called Pars Fortuna. So let us welcome Bharat Ram. A warm welcome, Bharat. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Pai. Before I begin, I must narrate an incident which might be very interesting for your viewers. On the 13th of August, 1947, which is 2 days before the independence of India, two astrologers, famous astrologers of India, Surya Narayan Vyas and Haridev Sharma, received a call from somebody from the yet to be formed government of India. And the caller said, Lord Mountbatten, who was the Viceroy of India at that point of time, he said Lord Mountbatten has agreed to give independence to India on the 15th of August 1947. And the caller said, can you please give us a good time to transfer the power from British to the Indian government? And the astrologers looked at the Panchang and they said, 15th of August is a bad day, you please find some other date, or at least give us an option of some other date. They said, no, all that is not possible, because Lord Louis Mountbatten has specifically insisted on the 15th of August 1947 for declaring India independent. So they asked, so why is that? What is so special about the 15th of August? They said, because Lord Mountbatten feels that the 15th of August is a very auspicious date for him, because Lord Mountbatten was the commander of the Allied forces, was commander of some part of the Allied forces in World War II. And the Japanese surrendered to the Allies and surrendered to Lord Louis Mountbatten on the 15th of August 1945.
Right.
So since the Japanese surrendered to an Allied commander on the 15th of August, Lord Mountbatten felt that the 15th of August was a very auspicious date for him, and he was willing to give India independence only on the 15th of August 1947. So the astrologers had no choice but to work within the constraints that they were given. That is, in a span of 24 hours, they had to find a good Muhurta. So after a lot of deliberations between Haridev Sharma and Surya Narayan Vyas, they decided that India should be declared independent and the transfer of power must happen at midnight on the 15th of August 1947, because given the constraints, at that point of time, the Lagna was Taurus Lagna, which we know is a fixed Lagna, and a fixed sign is a good sign for laying the foundation, for laying a strong foundation. Moon was in Pushya. Pushya was a good nakshatra for declaring a nation independent. So taking into account all these things, they told Dr. Rajendra Prasad that we think that given the constraints that you have set on us, the 15th midnight of the 15th of August 1947 is the best time to transfer power. which is why India became independent at midnight. So Pandit Nehru gave his famous speech, "When the world sleeps, India shall awaken." Pandit Nehru was told to complete his speech a few seconds before midnight. And the
Wow.
speech was about 4 or 5 minutes long. And he completed that speech just a few seconds before midnight. And exactly at midnight, the conch was blown to signify victory. And the parliament was washed. And the parliamentarians moved, the Indian parliamentarians moved into the parliament. My point is here, Dr. Pai, whether it is somebody like Lord Louis Mountbatten, who probably knows nothing about Muhurta, my guess, he still considered, an auspicious date because the Japanese surrendered to him on the 15th of August, so he thought that the 15th of August was a lucky date for him. Indian government was embarking on a very new thing, so they wanted a very auspicious date. So whether it's a nation or an individual, everyone wants an auspicious time at which to commence a new activity. Abhijit Muhurta, we know, is a very auspicious time to commence a new activity, other than, of course, marriage and those kind of activities. But commercial activities, for commercial activities, Abhijit Muhurta is a very safe bet. But my question is that Abhijit Muhurta is not special to a particular chart. It is good for everyone in that place at that point of time. So Abhijit Muhurta is midday or midnight based on the local mean time. In India's case, the midnight actually was at 11:53 was Abhijit Muhurta. It is not the clock time, but it is the local mean time. So my quest has always been to find, is there an Abhijit Muhurta in my chart, which is very special to me and which is not a general Abhijit Muhurta. And when I was doing my Krishnamurti Paddhati course, I was taught about a concept called the Pars Fortuna, which is actually borrowed from Egyptian astrology and also Arabic astrology. Professor K.S. Krishnamurti, the late Professor K.S. Krishnamurti, who formulated the Krishnamurti Paddhati, he in his book has very clearly stated upfront that I borrowed many concepts from Western astrology and different types of astrology. I did not, restrict myself to Hindu astrology. So this is a concept which I learned from, his courses, which was taught by his son. And of course, I did subsequently many other research. Robert Hand is a famous Western astrologer who has actually done a lot of work on Pars Fortuna, and his link is there for his page in my presentation. So let me now begin with the concept of Pars Fortuna, which is part of the fortune.
This is very interesting, Bharat, that you mentioned about the independence and also about Abhijit Muhurta. Now, for all the viewers, what I would like to say is Abhijit Muhurta is different from Abhijit Nakshatra. Okay? Typically, it is believed that Abhijit Muhurta, typically, it operates for 24 minutes before 12 in the afternoon and after 12. So one Muhurta is 48 minutes. So it is usually, typically they say, again, as Bharat clarified, it depends on the mean time of the region where you are. So it might be a few minutes here and there. So there are two Abhijit Muhurtas, and this has been even confirmed by K.N. Rao Saab. In the interviews that he has done, he said that Lord Rama was born in Abhijit Muhurta at midday. Okay, so that is why he belonged to the Surya Vamshi, the Raghu Vamsh Kul, or the lineage of the solar deities. And Sri Krishna apparently was born during Abhijit Muhurta, during midnight. And that is why he was said to be born from the Chandra Vamshis, which is the lineage which belongs to the moon. So these are very, very beautiful concepts, Bharat. And, I'm very glad that you're bringing this Western concept or Egyptian concept or whatever. But I think this is a very great technique that you're going to teach us today. And I'm very glad that, not many people who have understood nakshatras have actually touched upon this. So this is a very proven technique, and I've seen this work. And I'm also going to share another technique based on how to look at fortunes, which I learned from Johnny Petrie. She's written in a book, how to make money, and how to look for luck and fortune. So that technique also I'm going to share with you people at the end of this lesson. But I think this is a great thing that you're bringing, Bharat. So please go ahead and teach us how to look for pars fortuna by telling us what pars fortuna is, and tell us, how to look for pars fortuna in nakshatras, and how to connect it with nakshatras, and how to make, look for the best time. What is the most auspicious time to do things like, our scholars who advised the Indian government when to pick the most appropriate time. And also tell us, Bharat, because just before we went live here and we started recording, you also said there are issues with finding the right muhurta. So what are those issues, so that people would be able to understand? Because you said, I cannot see, sometimes when people ask for the best muhurta, you say you cannot find the best muhurta based on the textual information that we have in the ancient classics. And you sometimes say, I couldn't find any muhurta for marriages even for a year. So can you tell us a little bit more about muhurtas before you can actually go into pars fortuna? So over to you, Bharat.
Yeah, Dr. Pai, I don't practice astrology in a commercial sense, but I like the predictive part of astrology. I'd like to predict, because to me, if I don't predict, astrology is not very interesting. So I do predict a lot for families and friends and for free, but I just do it for a very restricted circle. And some of my known people, they come to me and say, what is a good muhurta for a marriage? So I say, look, I can find you a muhurta, but you must give me 1 year to find a muhurta. You have to give me a span of 1 year, because I cannot find them. If you want to get, or somebody wants to get married next month, I cannot find you a marriage muhurta next month, because if I look at Dr. B.V. Raman's book, there are at least 5 months which he says are not suitable for marriage. Now, if 5 months are not suitable for marriage, then half the year is gone.
Yeah.
Then in Dr. Raman's book, he has also said that the only good muhurta for only good nakshatras for marriage, the months, the lunar months good for marriage are Magha, Falguna, Vishaka and Jeshta. He says these are the only months in which you must get married. Now, this is another constraint that you have got to take into account. Further, he says the only good days are Monday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. So that is another constraint. Further, he goes on to say that there are only few lunar days which are good for marriage, which is the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 10th, 11th and 13th. And he says the only nakshatras in which you can get married are Rohini, Mrigashira, Magha, except first pada of Magha, Uttarashada, Hasta, Swati, Anuradha. Uttarashada, Uttara Falguni and Revati except last pada. So there are so many, caveats and constraints in finding a good muhurta for marriage. And within these constraints, you can find a muhurta, but the muhurta may be at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and nobody wants to get married at 2 p.m. They want either a morning thing or a night. If it's North India, they want a night muhurta. If it is South India, they want a morning muhurta. So I say I cannot guarantee that I will find you a muhurta either in the morning or night. Muhurta is a muhurta, it's a good time. How does it matter whether it's daytime or night time or morning time? So there are many constraints. If you go by the classical text, there are constraints of the lunar day, there are constraints of the weekday, there are constraints of the nakshatra, there are constraints of the months in which you can get married. So if you follow all these constraints, I am sure that nobody, unless they are lucky, can find a good day, they'll need at least a year, to find a genuinely good day. And most of the days that I find that marriage is happening, they are not genuinely good muhurtas, except some perhaps, but generally they take into account only one or two rules. They don't take into account all the rules. So that is my, of course, I have never ever given a marriage muhurta date, because nobody ever agrees that, they'll wait for 1 year for a date. It's impossible in this day and age. So I am also very happy not giving a date, because it's a very difficult subject to get into. Something happens to marriage,
Yeah,
the astrologer gets, so I don't get into it. But whenever I've tried to apply muhurta to marriage, I always find it's very tough to find a good, genuinely good muhurta. It's quite tough.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting, Bharat. Because these are certain things, I think everybody would have those questions, and thanks for letting us know, some of those conditions under which you can get married, or rather, what is a good muhurta. Now tell us, Bharat, now since it's very difficult to find a ideal muhurta, what do you think is the shortcut, or how can you actually get aligned with the nakshatras better, and what would be the most fortunate time? And that is what I think your lesson is about, pars fortuna. So tell us more about pars fortuna, and how can you look for a compromise when you cannot find the best muhurta as per the panchanga.
Yeah. Pars fortuna actually overcomes the defect of muhurta, which is the muhurta is actually a good time which is common for many people. It is not specific to a chart. It is not derived out of a chart. But pars fortuna is a point in your personal birth horoscope. It's a nakshatra which is in your birth nakshatra, but that nakshatra has been arrived at by using your ascendant position, your moon position, your sun position. So it is very personal to you. And I must clarify at this point of time, while pars fortuna is good for everything, it is not good it's not a marriage nakshatra. It is suitable for commercial activity. It is suitable for, where money is involved and things like that. But it's still not going to answer the question. I mean, can you marry in the nakshatra, can you marry in that nakshatra? I would still say no, because for that you still need to go back to the traditional muhurta techniques. But nevertheless, it is still a very vital point in your horoscope where your entire life will get an uplift when Jupiter moves through it, or when Saturn moves through it, or Rahu moves through it, or Ketu moves through it. So you don't have to be bothered whether it's a functional benefic, functional malefic, natural benefic, etc. You don't have to be bothered with it. Whenever a planet moves through it, whether it's the sun, the moon, or even the lagna, or the other planets, it is good to perform an activity that you wish to perform, which you think needs to conclude successfully. Okay. So shall I just begin with the basics of?
Sure.
It's actually a very simple concept, and it can be applied by anyone. It does not need too much of analysis and too much of calculation. So I will talk about what is pars fortuna, how is pars fortuna calculated, how is the calculation different for a daytime birth and a nighttime birth, and how do you find what is a daytime birth and what is a nighttime birth, and how to apply pars fortuna in your birth chart. Though I must also add at this point of time, you can even apply it to a horary chart or a time chart, which is actually follows the same pattern, which I can probably touch on a little later. So what is pars fortuna? Pars fortuna is like Rahu and Ketu. It's a mathematical point in the horoscope. It is not a planet, it's a mathematical point in the horoscope. Pars fortuna is differently calculated for those who are born in the day and differently calculated for those who are born at night. Now, at this point of time, I must clarify, how do you find out if you are born in the day or born in the night? You don't have to find out the sunrise of that place, and you don't have to find the sunset of the place and then find out all that. if your sun is in houses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, it means from the Lagna. Houses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the Lagna, it means the sun is below the horizon, so which means it's a nighttime birth. So you don't have to bother with the exact timing. If the sun, as calculated from the Lagna, is in houses 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, it means it's a daytime birth, and you must apply the daytime formula. When a planet moves through the pars fortuna, which is a point or which is a nakshatra in your chart, then you can see an uptrend in your life and career. I've seen this repeatedly. And pars fortuna can be calculated for the natal chart, and it can also be calculated for the prashna chart. If I look at the formula for a daytime birth, for a daytime birth, this is how you must calculate pars fortuna, which is the degrees, minutes, second of the ascendant. You add the degrees, minutes, second of the moon, and you subtract the degrees, minutes, and second of the position of the sun. Now, adding it manually is quite simple. There are so many, places on the internet where you can learn how to add and subtract the latitude, longitude. It's simple arithmetic. It's simple plus minus. But for those who don't want to do it manually, there is a calculator. So I'll share the calculator. So if the birth is a daytime birth, which means a daytime birth is when the sun is in houses 7 to 12, as we discussed earlier, then you apply this formula. If the birth is a nighttime birth, then you take Lagna and add the sun's degrees and subtract the moon's degrees if it is a nighttime birth. And nighttime birth is when the sun is in houses 1 to 6 from Lagna. Let us take the chart of Raj Kapoor. Raj Kapoor, if you see, the sun is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since the sun is in the first 6 houses, that means his birth is a nighttime birth. And here we can see the time also. It's at 10 p.m. So here we need to note down 3 things. We need to note down the ascendant, which is in 27 degrees, 11 minutes of Cancer, is the Lagna. The sun is at 29 degrees, 38 minutes in Scorpio, and the moon is in 6 degrees, 21 minutes in Cancer, and this is a nighttime birth. Okay. Now, at this point of time, I will note down that the ascendant is in Cancer, 27 degrees, 11 minutes, because I need it for the calculation. So I'll just note down that the ascendant is in Cancer, 27 degrees, 11 minutes. So I'm noting this down. I'm also noting down that the sun is in Scorpio in 29 degrees, 38 minutes. And the moon is in Cancer in 6 degrees, 21 minutes. So once I have this information, I just click on this Pars Fortuna calculator. If you don't have the calculator, please do the calculations manually, because it is absolutely basic addition and subtraction. So I click on the Pars Fortuna calculator. Are you able to see the calculator, Dr. Pai? Yeah. So here we will see the ascendant is in Cancer. So select Cancer, and the ascendant degree is
2911.
2711.
Yeah.
27 degrees, 11 minutes. Okay. Then we have to add the sun. Okay. We have to add the sun because it's a nighttime birth as per the formula. Sun is in Scorpio. So select Scorpio.
29.
And it's in 29 degrees, 38 minutes. 38 minutes. And we have to subtract the moon. And the moon is in Cancer.
6 degrees.
In 6 degrees 21 minutes. Okay, now we just click on find Arabic part and we get Sagittarius 20 degrees 28 minutes is his pars Fortuna. I just take a book and I find out where is Sagittarius. It's in Purva Ashada.
Yeah.
20 degrees 28 minutes is Purva Ashada.
Correct.
So Purva Ashada in Raj Kapoor's case is his Fortune Nakshatra. Purva Ashada is his Fortune Nakshatra. Purva Ashada falls from 13 degrees 20 minutes to 26 degrees 40 minutes. So Purva Ashada is his pars Fortuna. Now, let us see how pars Fortuna influenced the life of Raj Kapoor. There is Mercury in Purva Ashada. Mercury is placed in Purva Ashada in Raj Kapoor's chart. There may be a planet, may not be a planet, but in this particular case, there is Mercury in Purva Ashada. You know, Raj Kapoor's first film was released in 1935 when he was 11 years old. When he was 11 years old, his first film was released in 1935. And in 1935, transit Mercury, Rahu and Sun was in Purva Ashada on the 29th of December 1935, and his first film was released in March 1935. So we see that his yearly career took off when Mercury, which is placed in the natal chart in Purva Ashada, when it transited with Rahu and Sun in Purva Ashada, his career took off. So that is in 1935. Then he commenced his Mercury Dasha in August 1939, and which ran till August 1956. And during this period, he was at the peak of his prowess when he acted in 34 films as the main lead from 1943 to 1956, which is at the rate of 2.5 films a year he acted in movies. So we find that when the dasha of a planet in pars Fortuna starts, there can be a very big boost or a flip to your career. Then we see that his first film as producer, as director, and with him playing as the male lead, and with his most famous heroine, which is Nargis, was released in August 1948, when transit Mercury and Jupiter was in Purva Ashada. And this was his first film under his own banner, under the RK Studio banner. So which was a very important event for him. And again, we see that when transit Jupiter and transit Mercury were in Purva Ashada in December 1960, he had 3 film releases in 1960, and that film was, and he also got the Best Actor award for his film Jis Desh Mein Ganga Behti Hai. He not only got the Best Actor award, the film won the Best Film award, the film won the Best Heroine award, and the film won the Best Direction award. So it was the 7th Filmfare Award, and the film actually won more than one award in the 7th Filmfare Award function. So we see that whenever any planet transits through the pars Fortuna of a native, it just gives a boost or a flip to the life. Of course, I must say at this point of time, this does not promise that the boost that you get in your life is a long-term boost. You know, that depends upon your other Dasha Bhukti Antara, it'll give you a boost. But whether you are able to capitalize on the push that you get is dependent upon other features in your horoscope. Then on the 10th of July 1973, transit Jupiter and Mercury were in Purva Ashada. And Bobby, one of his greatest films, was released in September 1973. So the other point actually to note is that the transit of a planet through Purva Ashada does not indicate that the activity or the boost in life will happen exactly at that point. It could, planetary influence start playing out earlier, later. That's a separate subject. But I'm saying around that time, you are absolutely certain to get a big boost in your life. I would urge you to apply this on your own charts first, retrospectively, and see what happened when Jupiter moved through your pars fortuna. What happened when Saturn moved through your pars fortuna? What happened when Rahu Ketu moved through your pars fortuna? And you will find that no matter what your circumstances were, you definitely got a lift in your life. One more thing I would like to point out, Dr. Pai, that his Mercury is in Purva Shada. Purva Ashada, when Mercury is in Purva Shada, Mercury, one of the characteristics of Purva Ashada is that it causes a mass hysteria. The native is able, Purva Ashada creates mass hysteria. So what was Raj Kapoor's job? His job as a filmmaker was to create mass hysteria. And his fortune lay in creating mass hysteria. So how beautifully this entire concept of Fortuna plays out, that the native's entire life actually revolved around creating mass hysteria, because one of the features of Purva Ashada is to create mass hysteria, specifically when it is connected with the second house or it is connected with Mercury. And Raj Kapoor had Mercury in Purva Ashada. His entire life was about creating mass hysteria, and his fortune lay in his ability to create mass hysteria. So it is actually able to explain the life of the native in just a couple of words.
And Bharat, this is so very fascinating, this concept that you have introduced. And what I see, even the movie which you mentioned, Jis Desh Mein Ganga Behti Hai, and that is Purva Shada is associated with the deity Apa, which means water.
Oh, yes, of course, I'd forgotten that, yes.
Yeah, so you can see that this Jis Desh Mein Ganga Behti Hai, which means in which land the river Ganges flows. So that again adds up to the flavor of Purva Shada. And Purva Shada means initial victory, early victory. So you can see that he started at a very young age. Okay, his first film was released in 1935, you said, and then that was early.
Yes.
But later on, you see in his life, after Bobby, I don't know, we'll have to just check that were there more successes initially, or were there more successes
later? Initially. Later on, actually, it just faded.
So that again explains how pars fortuna and the nakshatra, if you can combine the nakshatra and the qualities of nakshatra, it gives you greater hints.
It is vital. It is vital to apply for pars fortuna to first know what the nakshatra means. You cannot apply it very arithmetically and say, oh, it's passing, so what will happen? There will be increase in fortune. That's not the right way. The right way is to know there will be mass hysteria, there will be a water element, then you can actually visualize what is going to happen. So I am presuming that, you read up about the nakshatra and then apply pars fortuna, and then you derive, value from applying pars fortuna.
So also, Bharat, one question which came to my mind is, when you said, any planet passing through it would activate that point in your chart, right?
Yes.
Now, do you also look at the house where the pars fortuna is, and do you think anything related to the house will also be activated in the chart?
Yes. In fact, whichever house pars fortuna is posited in, that house gets fortified. In this case, I think it's the sixth house where pars fortuna is sixth house. So his sixth house, would have definitely got fortified. I've seen it in my chart and my family members' chart, that wherever pars fortuna is posited, that house gets strengthened. So that is definitely.
Yeah, sorry, I think we just lost you for a moment there, Bharat. But
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, but what is interesting to note, Bharat, is sixth house is also 12th house from the seventh house. So when he had his movies becoming very popular, so I think his marital life was also going through a lot of turmoil, possibly because
Mm,
sixth house is activated,
possibly. Yeah.
possibly. So
Possibly.
sixth house is very strong in his chart. So his movies were doing very well, but maybe his marital life might also have suffered.
That is possible. Absolutely
Possible,
possible. Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
That's great. And another question that I had is: have you ever observed in when you are looking at Pars Fortuna? Now, this is a new parameter. I think I should also start looking at Pars Fortuna. And also, what I wanted to know is this the only point for fortune and wealth, or are there many other points in the chart based on calculation, the mathematical points? Because I remember you mentioned that there are about 27 or 30 points in the chart. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Pai, actually Pars Fortuna is called lot. It's called lot. And there are a lot of points. There is ability point, there is abundance point, there is accident point, the accomplishment, addiction, administration, agriculture. There's so many. I mean,
Right.
it's there on the calculator. So you please, all those viewers who would like to, explore this further, the calculations are all automatic. You just feed in the degrees, minute, second of the concerned planet, and you will get various other parts of fortune, which is specific to your chart. Bad luck, there's a bad luck point also. There's a bad luck point also in your chart. There's a bankruptcy point in your chart. So you can actually be a little more careful when planets transit your bankruptcy point. There is art, there's an art point in your chart, there's an addiction point in your chart. So that's why it's called lot. In I think in Arabic astrology or Greek astrology, it's called lot, L-O-T, because there are a lot of parts.
That's very, very fascinating, Bharat, because when you look at that, can you pull down that, the lots? No, the lots. You're just showing us those
Okay.
lots.
Okay.
Because I see that you can learn probably a lot, many of those combinations of those lots can actually give you greater hints. Now, for example, look at accomplishment. It is ascendant Sun and Jupiter. So
Yes.
Sun and Jupiter have to have a very key play in your accomplishments. Accidents, you look at Saturn and Mars. So
Correct.
again, there are so many themes that you can emerge from these sort of points that you have told us. Now, this is Pars Fortuna, which is again with Sun and Moon. Again, you see abundance,
Correct.
ascendant Sun and Moon is also abundance. So maybe Pars
Correct.
Fortuna is about creating abundance in your life.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
So
Past Fortuna is mainly about abundance. It's a creating of a lift in your life.
lift.
It's about success in your life, in success in your career.
Yeah, abundance and fortune also, because you can see that
Yeah. Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
top it says fortune. So great things to learn from this system. I think this is a great system, Bharat, that you have introduced to us. So yeah, another thing that I wanted to ask you, Bharat, is have you observed specific planets when they transit to this Pars Fortuna? Do you get the flavor of that along with the nakshatra? Do you also get the flavor of the planet which is transiting? For example, the karakatva of the planet. Have you observed if the houses ruled in the chart are also activated by that planet? Is there any
Yes.
study or research that you have done on that? Say, for example, you have Mars transiting, and if Mars is, say, for example, is the lord of the fifth house, or if the lord of the seventh house, is that house also getting a push or an upliftment or a fortune or abundance there? Is there some connection that you observed?
Yes. Yes, Dr. Pai, it's a very good point. I have always seen that when it's a planet transiting through Pars Fortuna, the Karakatva of the planet definitely influences what kind of fortune you are likely to get, because the kind of fortune you're likely to get when Mars is transiting via Mercury is transiting will be will carry their own flavor. I've seen this repeatedly and time and again. Yeah, that works. It works.
Okay, brilliant. I think that means it gives us much more insight into learning the system and making greater
Yes.
observation on what planet. And as you very clearly mentioned, it doesn't really matter whether it's a functional malefics or benefic.
Yes.
It will just work for everybody, but it brings in the flavor of that planet, and the houses which it rules in the chart will be more, where you can look for more significations of those houses emerging in the chart. Is that correct, Bharat? If my
Correct.
interpretation is correct?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely correct.
great. All right, Bharat. So I think you can carry on with your discussion.
Dr. Pai, we have the chart of Donald Trump. Donald Trump had a daytime birth, and we come to that conclusion of the daytime birth because we see that from the ascendant, 7, 8, 9, 10, Sun is in the 10th house, which means it is in houses 7 to 12. When the Sun is in houses 7 to 12, it's a daytime birth. Here also, we have to note down the position of ascendant, the position of Sun in degrees, minutes, and second, and the position of the Moon in degrees, minutes, second. And then the formula is little different from the previous formula. Here, because it is a daytime birth, you have got to take the ascendant, you have got to add the Moon and subtract the Sun. So we just go to the pars fortuna calculator.
I just think there's an easy way to remember this, because I would never remember this. So if it is daytime birth, you subtract the Sun. If it is nighttime birth, you subtract the Moon.
Yeah.
So that is the easy way to remember, I think. You add the ascendant and the other one. So if it is daytime birth, you subtract the Sun and you add the ascendant and the Moon, and then you subtract the Sun because it's daytime. And nighttime,
that is
you always subtract the. Okay, great.
Correct. So I just take here, the Lagna is in 6 degrees Leo. Lagna is in Leo, 6 degrees 51 minutes. 6 degrees 51 minutes. The Moon is in Scorpio, 28 degrees 6 minutes. And Sun is in Taurus, 29 degrees 50 minutes, and you click on find Arabic part, which is Aquarius, 5 degrees 7 minutes, and we find that Aquarius 5 degrees 7 minutes falls in Dhanishta. Aquarius 5 degrees 7 minutes falls in Dhanishta.
And
Aquarius 5 degrees 7 minutes falls in Dhanishta. And
Bharat, did you observe any planets which were transiting or aspecting this point during the election time?
Dr. Pai, it's right here.
Okay.
This is a transit chart as on the 15th of December 2016. Yet to come, but 15th of December, the Nakshatra Lord is transiting through Dhanishta, which is being aspected by Jupiter's Nakshatra aspect, 10th Nakshatra aspect. Jupiter has 3 aspects. I think it has a 10th and the 19th aspect, which is a special aspect.
That's right.
And which has 3rd and 5th aspect, which is a normal aspect, which is a Nakshatra aspect. So this is the 10th special Nakshatra aspect of Jupiter on Dhanishta. Mars is transiting via Dhanishta, and we know that he's on the verge of becoming the next president of the United States. So again, it's not about timing the event, but around this time, there is a significant lift to the career. And Dr. Pai, the very interesting thing about this is if you know the future of the nakshatra, then we know that Dhanishta is about wealth. Dhanishta is about real estate.
That's right.
Dhanishta is about tenants.
Yes.
And we know that Donald Trump is a real estate tycoon.
That's
His
right.
entire fortune has been built on real estate. So absolutely in one word, you can sum up that his entire fortune is going to come from real estate, because that is the most significant point of Dhanishta. The other significant point of Dhanishta is the male Dhanishta native does not get along with women. And
That's
we
right.
know how it played out. And
Brilliantly.
it is absolutely mind-boggling how these two important features of Dhanishta is actually leading him either to his fortune or taking him away from his fortune.
Misfortune, which is brilliant. I think this is it is just like the fortune point, what you can
Yeah,
just using this technique and using nakshatras, as you said, Bharat.
yeah.
And you mentioned about tenants, and for my viewers who might be wondering why tenancy is associated with Dhanishta, is because the devata associated with Dhanishta is the Ashta Vasus, the eight elemental gods. Vasu means the indweller, somebody who lives within something else. Vasu is to inhabit. Vasu means to inhabit or the indweller. So something is residing within something. So that is a tenant. That is what you see, that this concept is very, very, very profound. And like Bharat said, it's mind-boggling to understand the features also from his perspective in his chart. Because if you look at Donald Trump's chart, Mars is a yoga karaka because he is Leo ascendant, and Mars is the lord of the fourth house and the ninth house, a trikona dipati and a kona dipati. Okay, the fourth kona and trikona, which is the trine lord and the square lord. That is why whenever Mars is going to transit through his fortune point, which is Mars Fortuna, is going to bring him great success. So this is absolutely matching what Bharat is trying to tell us. Brilliant, Bharat. Great work.
So, Dr. Pai, I've actually, applied this on many charts, but retrospectively, I've always found it to work. Even if you apply it retrospectively to Donald Trump's chart in 1974, when Jupiter was in Dhanishta, in Feb 1974, Donald Trump was appointed as president in his father's organization, Elizabeth Trump and Sons. In February 1962, when Jupiter was in Dhanishta, he earned academic honors and he was also the captain of his school football team. Of course, it is very difficult to dig on personal matters, on the internet, so I don't have any more, but I can assure all viewers that they must apply it in their personal charts, and they will find that whenever slow-moving planets transit, there's a big boost. Whenever fast-moving planets transit, there's a much smaller boost. And if you want to perform an auspicious thing or perform an important thing in your life, just perform it when the moon is transiting through your pars fortuna, or when the sun is transiting through your pars fortuna. If you cannot wait for the sun and moon, of course the moon moves 11 degrees a day, so you might have to wait for a couple of days for moon to move, or you might have to wait for 1 year to the sun to move. So you just wait for the lagna to move through pars fortuna. If you want to write an important mail, write it exactly when lagna is in your pars fortuna. And lagna will transit to pars fortuna every 24 hours, so you don't have to wait for long. Or if you are suspicious of your birth time, because the birth time in this case has to be quite accurate because you are using ascendant as a major calculation point, then you just cast a horoscope. When you think of a question, you cast the horoscope, find the pars fortuna using exactly this calculation, and perform that important activity when either the sun or the moon or the lagna or the Rahu or Ketu or Jupiter or Saturn is moving through the pars fortuna of the horary chart, but that will be applicable only for that question for which you have cast the chart. And don't use it for frivolous things, because I've seen it doesn't work for frivolous things. Don't ask a question for a frivolous matter. It has to be important matter. Again, it's not suitable for marriage. It's not suitable for Upanayana and those kind of religious things. It's good for commercial matters.
I think, Bharat, this is a brilliant lesson you have actually shown us through this lesson. the fortune points, and there are more researches. I think I'm getting to my mind I could do tens more researches, or tens and thousands of more researches which can be done just by using these points, those points that you showed me. So that,
Yes.
and using that with the nakshatras, I think we could have so many more researches which we could do. Now, at the beginning of the lesson, Bharat, I said I'll be sharing another
Yes.
technique by Johnny Petrie. She has written in her book that I came across this technique, how to make money using astrology, discovering your luck and fortune. So that was her book. And this is a very, 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 I've seen it work brilliantly. Okay, again, because I am not very, I do not follow Muhurta and I do not know Muhurta, but I have used this technique very effectively and it works brilliantly. Now, here is a technique which is from Johnny Petrie's book. Johnny says that if you have to look for a good time to be successful, is either you need to go to a priest who understands Muhurta and ask him as per the thing, or there is a shortcut method you could apply. The method is very simple and it's very logical. The method is you need to put Jupiter or Venus in the trine when the activity needs to be done. See, for example, every day, as Bharat mentioned, this ascendant is going to move throughout the complete chart. So what you do is look for that time when the ascendant is exactly in trine with the Mars. Sorry, I'll stand corrected. Exactly with Jupiter, or degrically in trine with Venus, because both of these are going to give you great results. So Jupiter, typically you would want to do anything related to education, children, all the karakatwas of that planet, which is Jupiter. So intelligence, study, education, all of that you can use Jupiter, but she doesn't mention that. But I have seen that those are more suitable. But you can use Jupiter as expansion. Jupiter gives expansion to whatever you do. And the second planet is Venus. So if you're looking at Artha related things, then I would suggest you take and place the Venus in the trine. So if there was an important mail that you need to send to your boss, requesting him for a raise in your for an appraisal or for a raise or for a promotion, then maybe this is the right time that you want to see when Lagna is exactly the degree of the Jupiter, and put the Jupiter either in the 5th house or in the 9th house. Okay, or you can put the Lagna in transit Lagna, again with in trine with the Venus. So if it is you're looking for buying luxury things, or you want to give something, or you want to invest in something, then obviously you can use one of these, either the Jupiter or the Venus. And I've seen this technique work brilliantly. Excellent results.
So
yeah.
You're saying from the Lagna, either Jupiter or Venus should be in either the 5th house from Lagna or the 9th house from Lagna.
Yeah, transit Lagna.
Yeah, transit Lagna, it should either be in the 5th house. That is, the transit Jupiter should be 5th or 9th house from transit Lagna.
Yeah, transit Lagna. Transit chart. It's a transit chart. I'm talking purely of the transit chart. There's nothing to do with natal chart. You're looking, now this, as you mentioned, Bharat, now this technique what you're teaching today is specific to you and your chart. Now here, correct, this technique which Johnny is talking about, it is not linked with your chart, right? It is linked with the timing, the Muhurta. So here it is both transit. So you take the transit Jupiter, say for example, transit Jupiter is at 20 degrees in Virgo now, or 19 degrees or whatever. It's around about that, 18 to 20 degrees, I guess. So say, let's imagine Jupiter is 20 degrees in Virgo now. So whenever transit ascendant for the day is at 20 degrees in Taurus, that is one good time to do your activities. Or whenever it is at 20 degrees in Capricorn, that is a good time for you to do those, to do that work. Now, if you want to make it more specific, now I am thinking if we can use this past Fortuna logic and also see the fortune point for the day. And if you can put the fortune point and trine with the transit ascendant, this is something which is coming to my mind. If you can probably use that in the transit chart. So the transit chart is a Prashna chart. So any activity you want to do, maybe use that and put the fortune point, degreecal fortune point in trine with the Lagna in transit. So anyway, I think Bharat, it was absolutely brilliant class. I must say, thank you very much for coming up with this new technique that people can use in finding out their fortunes. And then what is more important is to see each of the flavors which are coming into that point through the nakshatras and through the grahas which are transiting that point. So I think there is a lot of research that we could carry out on this. But I really want to thank you for your time and coming and sharing that wisdom with us. So thank you very much, Bharat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pai, for this opportunity. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure, Bharat. And every time you come and you give us new thoughts and new ideas that we can go and research upon. So thanks again.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye. Bye.